Hey there, TH Plays here, and today we will be taking a look at another simple history video. I personally really like the videos, and yeah, this video in particular is going to be live inside a WW1 Mark V tank. If I'm not wrong, it's called the British Land Cruiser or something like that. I forgot what is it called, but yes. So basically, we're gonna be checking out how the crew of people would live like inside one of these. So if you find this video interesting, make sure to drop me a like to let me know, and comment down below what other videos you'd like me to check out next, because and if let me know what other videos you'd like me to check out next, as I'm really excited to check out new and interesting videos. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to this channel if you'd like to help me and support what I do completely for free. Also, make sure to check out my live streams over at twitch.tv/thplays, where I usually record like these types of videos live, and also interact with y'all. So do check me out there, if you want to interact with me. But anyways, without further ado, enough talking. Let's get right into the video.
In 1 month of premium subscription only lasts for 30 days.
Okay.
Life inside a tank. The Mark V tank, 1918. The arrival of the tank in World War I heralded a whole new kind of warfare that helped to break the bitter and bloody stalemate of trench warfare that had plagued the Western Front for years. And it was the British who pioneered the way in the introduction, development, and use of these fearsome armored fighting machines.
Oh, wow.
They were first introduced during the Battle of the Somme in September 1916,
Oh.
much to the shock and disbelief of the German soldiers. These British main battle tanks were a series of heavy so-called land ships that all had a very
land ships,
similar
right?
layout, with over 2,000 of them being built before the war had ended in November 1918. There were 5 main models, with the ultimate wartime one being the Mark V.
Yeah,
This was
the Mark
introduced in
V
July
tank.
of 1918.
The Mark V land ship.
Designed by Major W.G. Wilson, a British.
If you play a lot of Battlefield 1, you will know this land ship, this tank is pretty good.
Royal Naval Air Service engineer, and produced at the Metropolitan Carriage and Wagon Factory at Saltley and Oldbury in the West Midlands of England. The Mark V tank was not a radical new design, just more of an updated version of the earlier Mark IV tank.
Okay.
400 of these Mark Vs were built and consisted of 2 versions. The 6-pounder gun version, which was called the male variant, and the all-machine gun version, which was called the female variant.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense, because the 6-pounder gun variant would most probably be for like pushing through like artillery and stuff like that, and then this will be more for like infantry, I guess.
Of each were produced. The crew compartment.
Oh wow. Okay. Damn, that's a lot.
Like all the other tanks in the series, they were incredibly hot inside, cramped
True.
and noisy with very little ventilation. The crew of 8 were forced to communicate by shouting, using hand signals and writing notes to one another. To make matters worse, the Mark V had a serious design flaw, and that was the new engine layout, which meant that there was the constant threat of carbon monoxide poisoning throughout the tank from badly vented exhaust fumes. And it wasn't unusual for crew members to collapse unconscious inside the tank.
Wow, that's
The
actually kind
driver's
of
cabin.
bad, I guess. Okay.
One revolutionary and unique feature of this new model was that it was controlled by just one driver, using a gearbox with 4 forward gears and 1 reverse gear. This was unlike earlier models that needed 4 gearmen, 2 to control each of the tank's tracks. This previously clumsy setup had led to much confusion when driving the tank, resulting in many mistakes and accidents. The Mark V's driver had just a small slit to see out of, so if the tank was not operating in battle conditions, the tank commander would often get out and walk in front of the vehicle, signaling to the driver where to go and pointing out any potential hazards. Sat next to the driver was a gunner who operated the forward-firing machine gun. Toilets and showers, or lack of them.
Oh wow.
Despite the tank being 26 feet or 8 meters long, there was simply not the space to install any kind of onboard toilet or washing facilities. And it didn't help that the tank was already woefully overloaded with all sorts of equipment and ordnance. So despite missions often lasting for days, all that was provided for the crew were some rags and buckets for washing and other bodily functions. To empty out one of the buckets, a crew member had to open the escape hatch to throw out its contents. But in the middle
Wow.
of combat, these waste-filled buckets would have to stay inside for hours at a time,
Oh, there
adding to
isn't a
the
lid.
stench of sweat and fumes in the poorly
Wow.
ventilated and hot interior. Dinner service. Often food like bacon and eggs could be cooked on board by being wrapped in tinfoil and placed on the top of the hot
Yeah,
engines
because
to
it's so
slowly
hot,
cook.
right?
But the ability to make the all-important cup of tea in a British tank didn't occur for another 30 years with the introduction of the boiling vessel.
Wow, can you imagine just making a cup of tea? Just be like, I'll be just sitting and relaxing with a cup of tea. Wow. Wow, somebody just get shots outside. Can you imagine like you manning a machine gun, just shooting and just like drinking a cup of tea, watching my machine gun?
Centurion tank, so the crew had to boil their water outside of the tank in makeshift petrol burners.
But can't you just, like, since it's so hot, can't you just boil it inside? Like put like a metal container like on top of it and then watch it boil or something like that?
The engine. The 29-ton tank was powered by a massive 19-liter 6-cylinder inline Ricardo petrol engine. The engine produced 150 horsepower, which is the equivalent to that of a modern-day Harley-Davidson motorcycle. This gave the Mark V a top speed of 5 miles an hour, about the same speed as that of a person walking briskly. Fuel tank.
True.
Despite holding 93 gallons or 420 liters of fuel, the tank only had a range of 45 miles. And though the fuel tank was armored, it could easily be penetrated by enemy heavy machine gun fire. As the tank was powered by petrol, it could explode when hit, setting the tank on fire.
Yeah, that's true though.
It completely. So many crews were incinerated in this way that specially trained salvage crews had to be formed to retrieve their bodies out of the charred hulks. The
Damn, that's kind of bad.
The tanks had to be crank started internally using a large starting handle that had to be
I remember this in Battlefield 1. Oh my god.
Hands in order to get the tank engine to start. The semaphore system.
And I keep comparing it to Battlefield 1 because like that was based on World War 1, so there you go.
The semaphore system allowed for communication between tanks using a primitive signaling system of levers and discs on top of the tank, but this relied heavily on good visibility. Therefore, adverse weather conditions like rain or early morning fog made it next to useless. Battlefield smoke was also a problem too.
True.
The tanks also carried wicker baskets
Yes,
containing carrier pigeons that would have
yes.
messages strapped to their legs.
Then they'll
and
throw
were
it out.
released outside of the tank to
Yeah,
fly
they
back
throw
to
it out
base
the
with
hole.
messages.
Yeah, I remember that.
The armored exterior. The Mark V's armor had 16mm or 0.63-inch thick steel plate on the front, with 12mm or 0.47-inch on the sides, along with 8mm
That's
or
quite thick.
0.31-inch on both the rear and the roof. This meant that it was totally immune to all types of small arms fire, and it could also withstand heavy machine gun fire and grenade blasts on all but the rear and roof of the tank. The
Oh,
steel
okay.
plate was just normal industrial grade and therefore quite brittle, so if the plate was penetrated, it was prone to splintering. If this happened, it resulted in small red-hot shards of metal shooting around the crew compartment with devastating effects.
Yeah, that's pretty
The
painful.
crew would wear medieval-looking chainmail masks to protect their eyes, and
No
gas
shit.
masks were always close at hand. Weaponry.
Boom.
The male
6-pound
variant had a
cannon.
6-pounder gun in each of the forward-facing portions of its sponsons, as well as a further 4 .303-inch machine guns scattered about the tank. One machine gun was located on each side of the sponsons, another facing backwards at the rear of the tank, and a fourth in the driver's cabin facing
Wow,
forward.
that's a lot of machine gun
The
fire.
female variant was the same, except the 6-pounder were replaced with machine guns. 6-pounders were a short-barreled version of a British naval gun, so they didn't get stuck in the mud as they crossed the trenches or shell craters. The
True.
machine guns were the Hotchkiss M1909, which could fire as many as 10 rounds a second in short bursts. The drawback was that the odor from the cordite propellant used in the machine gun's rounds, though smokeless, caused irritation to the eyes and lungs of the gunners inside
that's
the
actually pretty
cramped and
bad.
poorly
Yeah.
ventilated interior of the tank. Ammunition. The 207 rounds for the 6-pounder gun was centrally stored, whereas the thousands of rounds for the machine guns were distributed about the tank next to the weapon ports for quick and easy access.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
The side sponsons. Turrets for tanks had yet to be fully realized, therefore sponsons were used at first.
Okay.
There was one located on either side of the Mark V tank. Each housed 2 weapons, one in the front of the sponson that had a very limited arc of fire and could only fire at targets in front of the tank. The other was on the side of the sponson and could only fire at targets to the side of the tank. Depending on the variant, the gun facing forward would be a 6-pounder gun on the male version or a machine gun on the female one. The side-facing gun on both variants was always a machine gun. After the war, these clumsy types of mountings were discarded as designers introduced more effective turreted designs. But a notable exception was the U.S. stopgap tank of World War II, the M3 Lee Grant. Observation post. An armored cabin on the roof of the tank was used for all-around observation, using a series of observation slits. There was also a peephole on both sides which the commander could also fire his 6-shot service revolver through if he needed to. These tanks were reasonably successful, though after the war they were gradually phased out of service to be replaced with new tanks that had gun turrets,
makes sense.
and smaller crew numbers and proper dedicated suspension, like the Vickers Medium Mark II, that were also equipped with radios. Some Mark Vs were used in the Russian Civil War that ended in 1920. The last recorded use of them was in August 1941, when the Red Army used 4 of them as dug-in fortifications during the defense of Tallinn against the German invaders. This video has been brought to you by Iron Order, a free online PvP strategy game set up during an alternative World War I timeline, where strategy is the key element. So take
Yep, yeah, but anyways, what do you think of this video, man? I think it was really interesting to learn about, life inside like a World War I tank, especially, since there are not really like many, I guess, written records that I know of personally, and, there's, I guess, many people know of, and, it's just really interesting to just know, how, stuff like old stuff works, and, how far we come in terms of like, military equipment and stuff like that, and as well, life inside the tank. But anyways, if you like these types of videos, make sure to drop me a like to let me know. Comment down below, what other videos I need to check out next, and I'll be sure to do so. Also subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, if you like to support me and what I do completely for free. Make sure to check out my Twitch streams over at twitch.tv/TGPlays if you would like to see me there live, react to these videos and interact with y'all. But thank you all so much for watching. Hope to see you in the next video or live stream.